Huh, dragon just spawned. Anyway, today we're going to be doing a review of the Glacial Scythe. So basically, it's pretty much just a frozen scythe that does a little bit more damage and has an explosion now. Dragon just flying straight at me. Let's see if we can do a DPS test for you here. Dragon DPS, woo, we did 700k. It's actually pretty optimal for this. I don't think it can hit the dragon midair. Maybe it can, but most of the damage is when it's stopped because you get implosion and all of those other buffs. Anyway, we're not going to do this. It's just an old dragon. Actually, I don't have end unlocked. No, I'm locked out. Can I DPS this? No, you have to actually melee it. We're locked in, boys. Oh, I'm full mage. I can't break it. Actually, I don't even know if you can break it from this side. But either way, I'm full mage, so it's not going to work. Alright, well, dragon's dead at least. So, now let's give you guys a review of the Glacial Scythe. So first off, what does it cost? Well, it's about 70 million coins. If we check here, let's see what lowest is right now as well. Yeah, so about 70 million with enchants and everything. It costs so little intelligence, especially now that you're going to want Swarm on here instead of Ultimate Wise. Secondly, what's DPS? Well, compared to something with similar damage that you guys can all compare from Fire Veil. So my Fire Veil does about 1.1 million damage per tick. And these actually have about the same attack speed as well. Like if you can see if I click a ton with this, you can see tick, 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 tick for like the damage numbers. That's about the same as this when you're actually clicking fast. So the difference is, again, it was about 1.1 million for Fire Veil, which you guys are used to comparing to. Now the just pure hit is about 300k for me, like just hitting it. And then the explosion does, like just the explosion does 400k. Can you actually even just hit the explosion? Okay, you can. But basically, in a real situation, if you're getting any DPS, you're going to be hitting both the feet and the ground. So you're going to be getting the combined damage of it. So this is pretty much 700, 800k damage per hit. So that's kind of what I'd say this is comparable to, about 700, 800k. So it's like 80% of Fire Veil DPS, which is not bad because, you know, it's ranged and you can hit multiple targets a lot easier than, say, a Fire Veil. Especially because it shoots pretty fast. This is actually faster than, not a Juju, but when people used to use the Bonzo staffs, which I guess doesn't matter anymore, but people used to use those to grind, and Frozen Scythe would always win because it had slightly faster speed. It's also slightly faster than a speed 400 person running, which I always thought was interesting. Like if you shoot it, so it just slightly outspeeds someone. Well, by a little bit. Even 500 speed, I think it's about comparable to. If you guys want to see a DPS test on something a little more interesting, we can go over to the Nether here and fight a Blade Soul. See if we have a live one in this lobby. Oh, yes, we do. How nice. So let's just go over here, just hit it once or twice, and then you guys can see the DPS once we're on it. It's not insane. There's nothing about this weapon that's broken, but see, if you click, just holding it, the DPS is lower than clicking. So I am actually clicking right now. But you can see it's like slightly under 1 million per second. That's what I would say. Maybe a little above, actually. But around 1 million DPS per second is what I get. Which is, like here, we'll compare to just the Fire Veil. It's definitely a little lower than a Fire Veil, but pretty comparable. It's not like a big difference between the two. The difference is the range that this has versus the ability to hit, well, the ability to couple this with other things. So I'd say they're both useful. Price difference, Fire Veil is way cheaper. So if you're a new mage, I would definitely say get a Fire Veil if you're doing anything. The only thing is that this is much better for, stay, if you're new and you're trying to grind, say, flares. This is actually super good for flare grinding if you're new and don't have a Hyperion. So obviously the best thing to use is just Hyperion around. Just go around and kill all these the correct way, which is like this. Oh, Blaze 11. Funny timing. Anyway, so going around like that, it's the fastest way. If you can't do that, though, and you're trying to use, say, a Fire Veil, like here, I'll use a Fire Veil to kill this, which actually, that does a lot of damage. You'll end up dying a lot when using a Fire Veil. I haven't yet, because I've gotten pretty lucky, but there you go, I just died anyway. But if you're using, say, the Scythe, you're not going to ever die. You just have to watch out for the magma boss, which isn't really a problem. You can see it's not like amazing DPS, but it does get the job done a lot easier than, say, any other weapon would, especially like a Spirit Scepter. The mana use, like how little this uses, is not comparable to anything else. It's just so cheap compared to those mana-wise. I think you can also kill the bats with this if they're near the wall. Obviously, it's not as easy. You do have to watch out for the magma boss, but this is a pretty good use case for it. If you're someone that's trying to grind flares, it doesn't make them very good as a money-making method, but if you're someone that's, say, just trying to get a little bit of combat XP that can't do ghosts yet, this is actually not bad. You can see here if we're sitting at 3540. Kill one of these. So then we got 700 combat XP from that. So, I mean, it's not bad. It's definitely worth using if you're new to the game and you don't really have anything else, especially for dungeons. It's pretty decent. If you're a later game player like me, I was going to try and use it for, say, zealot grinding, or see if I could kill these like much faster because of the explosion. But it's nothing crazy. Like, it's definitely not something I needed as a later game player. There's no real situation where you would need this yourself. Another case that's actually pretty useful for newer players, this is probably the best situation for it, to be honest, is if you're trying to go for Nether bestiary and you're having trouble with the barbarian dukes. This is just the easiest way to kill them because you don't have to get anywhere near them. It slows them down. The DPS isn't great. You can see if this is the comparison between just holding right click and then actually spamming. You can see it's just slightly faster. You don't have to click that fast, but it does get the job done pretty well. So this is an option to consider if you're new and you're struggling with these and you've been trying with a bow but can't quite get the same DPS. This is definitely better than a Juju would be for an equivalent player, especially because of the slowdown. You just don't have the risk of dying, or at least not the same. But that's pretty much my review on it. It's a fun weapon. It's interesting. It's not really useful for later game players, and the cost makes it a little out of reach for most newer mages. It isn't a bad stepping stone between, say, a Spirit Scepter and a Hyperion or a Spoon, because it is kind of in between price range, but it's not a huge buff. So if you were sitting and you were fine with the Spirit Scepter, you might as well get this, but you're going to want to resell it by the time you can get to a Midas Spoon, and then obviously you still want to couple this with, say, your Fire Veil wand, and then also once you can get a Hyperion, you want a Hyperion, because this is so painful in comparison to, say, how a later game player would do this, which is just go underneath of it, go like this, and it's just dead. But that's pretty much it. Just a quick review on it since I bought one, put Giant Killer on it. Thought you guys would be kind of interested in it, like how I was. Again, it's pretty good, but it doesn't replace any weapons that you would have needed it for otherwise. It's pretty good for bestiary, but the kind of situations that you'd use this, Precursor Eye is better, and well, it doesn't do quite as much damage. Like the Precursor Eye doesn't do as much damage. It's still much more useful for situations where you're just doing bestiary. So that's my review overall. Thanks for watching. Peace.